What is that? 12 noon?
What time is it?
12 noon.
Hey. The 12 noon Swiss church bell and boat honk.
Look at that.
Oh, wow, yes. Hi, I'm Shiph, and welcome back to another adventure of culture and love. I'm so excited that you joined me again this weekend. Thank you so much for all the love, the views, the comments, and the likes. So if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. And this weekend, I get to show you how I explored Switzerland in just 2 days, including travel time. Plus, I'm throwing in 5 reasons why time is of the essence, one of my favorite topics to talk about culturally, and it's not what you think, so stick around. In Switzerland, no problem. The first day was going to be Jungfrau, which they call the top of Europe because Jungfrau boasts the highest train station in all of the European continent. And the second day was going to be Mount Pilatus, a real hike in the Swiss Alps. I've never been to Jungfrau, and I've never hiked Mount Pilatus. So here's the adventure we went on instead. We flew into Zurich International Airport, and I knew that I had a friend waiting for us to go up supposedly Jungfrau. And I was booking it through the customs to the shortest line possible. Mid-motion, I just lose this sense of peace. I get really uncomfortable, and I strongly sense that I need to stop and stand in the long line of people with their passports, in the longest line at customs, not the grocery store. Well, I'm thinking like, what are you, like, am I going crazy? God, is that you? I just know that I can't like fight this sense of like losing peace. And so I reluctantly pay attention to my peace and how my peace is kind of drawing me towards this super long line of people. And I reluctantly turn around to face the row of people when I hear this voice asking me, where are you from? That is the voice of what would become our first travel pal in Switzerland. It was Deepak, and I consider him a godsend, and he gave us the rundown of how to optimize our trip in 2 days. He told us exactly where we needed to get money, how much money we needed for the places and the activities we wanted to do, and the amount of time we had. And voila, wouldn't you know, he was going exactly where we were going. Lesson: always pay attention to your peace and learn how to discern the difference between complacent comfort and a sense of peace. Deepak not only gave us those logistical details, but he gave us some fun cultural insights on Switzerland about punctuality and the train schedules and his Swiss watch. One of the most expensive Swiss watches he'd seen in his company had gone for $900,000 plus. That's $1 million, people, on your wrist just to tell you the time. Right, so we made it to Switzerland, and we are in this amazing At this point, it was a late lunch hour. This is all about time, y'all. We had to get lunch on the go. There was this little cafe in the train station. We ordered fries. Time was of the essence. These fries were taking way too long. So I gave myself a deadline. I said, if these fries don't come out in 2 minutes, that leaves me 1 minute to run and get on that train. Well, a minute went by, a minute and a half went by, and there were no signs of French fries being made. Mind you, train tickets in Switzerland, especially to Jungfrau, are a pretty penny, which means, quite frankly, I did not go to Jungfrau when I discovered that price tag. So instead, just one of my friends went to Jungfrau, Eve, and my other friend, Teddy, decided we could go to this other spot called Grindelwald. No, not Grindelwald the movie, but Grindelwald the charming village town nestled in the Bernese Alps of Switzerland at about 1,000 meters above sea level. This is so unreal. We are going to the top of adventure. We say goodbye to Eve. She's going to the top of Europe. We chose adventure. And this is so unreal, guys. Like, I have to be torn away. I can't, like, take my eyes away from this. So I wanted you to get a little snippet. There's a glacier, there's these cliffs, there's paragliders, we're in the gondolas, Teddy's behind the camera. This is so unreal. It's so worth it. I think of God when I see this. I feel small and reminded of how small I am. Day 2, we weren't able to go to Mount Pilatus, right? But we were able to squeeze in a boat ride on Lake Lucerne. There's just no justifying it. I mean, this city is incredible, and we're excited because we're gonna get on a boat and we're going to enjoy Switzerland for day 2 in this country. Some incredible 360-degree aerial views of the lake and the Swiss Alps. We've got this incredible view, and those are the hot baths. We got a cable car that went from Vegas to Witznau. So in honor of a beautiful country and culture like Switzerland that is known for their clockwork and their timeliness, here's 5 reasons why time is of the essence, and my take on it. So not what you think. All right, number 1, time is so important because time is a language. Yeah, that's right. I actually have a really good friend who's coming on our next episode who works at a lingual center. That's her profession, which is language. And she has taught me that there are 2 types of schools of thought when it comes to language. There's the prescriptive school, and then there's the descriptive school. The prescriptive school of thought when it comes to language is that language is what it is, and we need to preserve it. So this is kind of where you get the idea that the proper way to speak a certain language comes from this time or of origin or this place of origin, right? And the descriptive school of thought is more like the school of thought where if enough people use this word, like a slang word, for example, ain't, then that legitimizes the word. So depending on where you land, you might have language as the source of standard or people as the source of standard. And time is a language. Depending on where your frame of reference is, you might have time dictating your activity, or you might have your activity dictating your time. So, in case that didn't make a lot of sense, maybe a little bit too theory, here's a story to kind of put some flesh on this. I remember going to a birthday party, and just the way that I was brought up, I suggested, hey, I haven't gotten a gift. I'm carpooling with a friend. So I told the friend, what do you think about swinging by the store and grabbing a gift so we can split it and show up with something to give? The person said, yeah, sure, why not? But then looked at the time and told me, unfortunately, it wasn't a good idea. And I conceded because the friend of mine that I was carpooling with knew the birthday person much better than I did. And my friend said to me, you know, I know that the birthday person would much rather have us there on time than for us to show up with a gift from the store. So depending on how you speak time, your time language might be that keeping an appointed time speaks volumes of how you are valued by the other person, and how you keep your appointed time speaks volumes of how you value others. There's also this idea that I want to bring out on our adventure of culture and love, that to love each other better, we probably should also realize that there are other ways to speak the language of time, and that people coming from different cultures will express and show their values and their love differently. For example, one might be keeping the appointed time, and the other might be like actually taking the time to bring something to contribute to the occasion. So leave a comment below and tell me which culture you come from, which school of thought when it comes to language you come from, whether it's keeping the appointed time in terms of clockwork or taking the time to come with a gift to special occasions. Are you from the descriptive school of thought, or are you from the prescriptive school of thought? Remember, there isn't a superior way of doing life when it comes to these issues. It's more so about loving each other by knowing that there's multiple ways of doing things. So, number 2, time, if it's a language, is a construct. So number 2, time is a construct. If it's a language, it's a construct, right? And constructs don't have to be bad, and they don't have to be thrown out. It's just important that we know that it's a construct. And in case you need some proof that it's a construct, let me talk about my own geography in the world when it comes to my cultural heritage. Samoa, usually, if you look at a world map, is on one side of the map and the other as well. Either it's repeated, like duplicated, or it's split, like literally half of Samoa is on one side and you have to find the other part of the country on the other. So this is also true on a globe, like bring not just a flat map, but on the globe. There is something called, at the 180-degree meridian, a time date line. Now, the actual definition of a time date line, if you look it up, is an imaginary line. That first part of the definition screams that it's a construct. The way that we have constructed time to measure it, to help us measure how long our activities could be, to manage our schedules, whatever you use time for, we have constructed a construct. And the time dateline is one of those constructs. So yeah, go ahead and take a look at that. You'll find that the majority of countries with the time dateline running either completely around them at the curvature are Pacific Island nations. So I'm intimately acquainted with being on the fringes of the construct of time that we currently conform to today. Number 3, time is relative. Yep. And this one's for all those who think scientifically or need scientific backing. Time is relative. Thank you, Albert Einstein. These are the breakthroughs that he contributed to the scientific community, right? That time is a variable, it is relative, it depends on your point of reference that you choose that will allow you to measure time or even to speak of it. Time and space were discovered to be variables, and it was the speed of light that is the constant. That gives us the E equals mc squared, time dilation. It allows GPS satellites to work. I mean, there are whole things that we take for granted that are based on the fact that time, or on this profound theory that time is relative. And I like the theory, the scientific theory that time is relative. Number 4, time is subjective. This one's for those who might need a little bit of theological or biblical backing, okay? So I heard a sermon where the preacher said, God is punctual, so be on time. God is never late, so be on time. I totally believe that there's more to the universe that drives the universe, and I do believe that God in sacred texts reveals a character that is faithful, reveals a character that is perfectly timely, but only in the context of subjectivity, meaning God is on time because God is the one that determines what is going to be on time. God is on time because time is subjected to God, instead of like a clockwork determining God's calendar or my watch or my needs for a certain time. And this is so true. Like those who know biblical stories, like the one with Mary and Martha, right? They had their thoughts on what would have been on time for their brother Lazarus, who was sick and then dies because Jesus doesn't show up on time. In fact, one of the sisters says to Jesus, if only you had come, if only you were here, he would not have died. And finally, my 5th reason, time is cultural. It brings all the reasons together. Basically to say that there are different ways to approach time, and we could love each other better if we understand that culture really does play a big part on how we express our values using time, how we feel valued using time, how we speak of time, which points of reference we use for time, and it just allows us to love each other better and to feel more loved by each other. Knowing what culture someone comes from, to know whether they're from island time or Swiss time, it makes a big difference. Time is often way more about the person's culture than their character. Well, I hope you are a little bit more cultured and a little bit more in awe of love. Join us again next week for another episode on culture and love. Stay in awe and okay, let me say it again. Well, I hope we were a little bit more cultured and a little bit more in awe of love. Stay in awe and remember, you are awesome.